My girlfriend's Prince Charming came back. And now she wants to break up with me. Afraid that I'll cling to her endlessly. She even had her best girlfriends team up to hook me. Saying, he's a lecherous guy. Easy to hook, cast once and he'll bite immediately. So, the top-tier seductive succubus tried to hook me, and I bit. The beautiful, pure school belle tried to hook me, and I bit. Even Prince Charming himself tried to hook me, and I still bit. In the end, the wealthy heiress broke down first. Staring hysterically at my flirty chat logs with her best friend, she shouted, "Over 800 pages in a single month, are you an octopus? I said you were easy to hook. But not this easy. You bite any hook you see." Chapter 1. I have a histrionic personality, and I even do face-pointing accusations, like, the heavy kind. My motto, I must not let a beautiful woman feel sad. My ideal, I want to give all the beautiful women in the world a home. So, right after transferring into this noble school, I set my eyes on Willow, the rich young lady with a beautiful face, and I began pursuing her fiercely. Although Willow has a sweet appearance, her temper is terribly bad, her mouth is extremely poisonous, and she is very picky. This results in her having top-level looks but very little luck with the opposite sex. Whenever the male students talk about her, they feel it's a pity and say, "Willow looks great," but unfortunately, she has that mouth. On the first day I chased her, I experienced Willow's harshness. I told her I liked her. She didn't even look at me properly. She rolled her eyes and said, "Where did that dog barking come from?" The second time, she told me to pee and look at myself in it. The third time, she told me to go get a head replacement surgery. But my pursuit of beautiful women is devout. Willow made me extra excited. The more setbacks I had, the braver I became. Bringing water, bringing food, bringing flowers, saving seats, doing duty shifts, doing homework. I never missed anything. 24 hours available whenever she called. Just like that, I persisted for 99 days. My classmates went from waiting to laugh at me to feeling admiration. They all thought I was madly in love with Willow. But actually, I just found it very challenging. One day, after I traveled 20 kilometers in heavy rain to bring Willow the cake she liked, she crossed her arms, lifted her chin proudly, and said, "You like me that much? Then I'll reluctantly give you a chance." After we got together, Willow was very hard to serve. If the water was hot, she wouldn't drink it. If it was cold, she wouldn't drink it. If it was warm, she still wouldn't drink it. She wanted roasted chestnuts only when they were the hottest. Her sandwiches had to be cut symmetrically, and she remained sharp-tongued. When I praised her beauty, she said I looked even uglier again. When I praised her outfit, she said I dressed like a beggar. When I praised her intelligence, she said, "It's not like you, with your pig brain." Others asked me how I could tolerate her, but I only smiled without speaking. Willow's mouth was truly poisonous, but also truly sweet. They only saw me being belittled and mocked by Willow. What they didn't know was that I was eating very well. They didn't know that on the rooftop, in empty classrooms, backstage at the auditorium, Willow, with a flushed face, would lift her skirt slightly, revealing her long legs. Her ears red as she said, "This is your reward." They also wouldn't know what kind of scenery it was. When Willow, kissed by me until the corners of her eyes turned red, combined with her earth-shaking beauty, you have to know, a rose with thorns is especially fiery. Chapter 2. Originally, I thought I could live these joyful days for at least a year, but unexpectedly, Willow's Prince Charming appeared, Makoto. Just from hearing the name, I knew he was a Prince Charming. When he appeared on the podium as a transfer student, his features were delicate, his eyes curved when he smiled, his expression gentle, and the girls below the stage screamed non-stop. Even Willow accidentally knocked over her water cup when she saw him. If it were before, I would have already hurried to wipe every one of her fingers dry with tissues, and then conveniently interlock our fingers, but I couldn't do that today, because I was staring, too. Isn't this that crunchy-voiced cross-dressing big shot orange from the internet? There's always only one line in his video bullet comments, "Bro, you forgot again." Willow raised her hand voluntarily to say she wanted Makoto to sit with her. You have to know, no one was ever allowed to sit beside her, not even me. I could only sit in the row behind her. Seeing her like this, my heart skipped a beat. It's over. I haven't eaten enough yet, and it's already ending. How could that be? I spent so much effort. Just the thought of not being able to eat someone that beautiful anymore made me feel unbearably anxious. Just when I was grieving silently in my heart, Makoto walked over to me. He nodded politely and asked, "Classmate, is someone sitting next to you?" "Huh? Who?" "Me." I didn't react, staring in confusion, but he gave me a gentle smile. At such close distance, there was even a faint floral scent coming from him. "Bro, why do you smell so good?" No, what nonsense." I jolted upright and nodded vaguely. Then I saw his smile bloom, and he quickly sat down beside me. Then he stretched out his hand toward me and said, "Then from now on, please take care of me, deskmate." My God, why are his hands so white? Just as I was spacing out, a loud bang suddenly sounded in front of me. Looking up, I found Willow's face already bright red. I instantly sobered up. It's over. Willow is angry. She let out a heavy snort and stormed out of the classroom. I hurried to follow her. Chapter 3. In the small grove, Willow glared at me angrily, cheeks puffed up, and said with dissatisfaction, "Why didn't you refuse him just now? What the hell, both of us are guys. What kind of jealousy is she eating?" But I still skillfully put on my flattering smile and said, "Baby, I'm sorry. I don't know why he wanted to sit with me." After hearing my words, Willow's expression became even worse. She warned me coldly, "Don't you dare have any crooked thoughts about him. I'll be watching you. Recognize your identity. Do you understand?" Although I couldn't understand her logic, I nodded repeatedly. Before I pursued Willow, I already knew she had a Prince Charming. Not just me, everyone in the whole school knew. When Willow was young, she almost got kidnapped, and Makoto saved her. Ever since then, he was carved into her heart. Willow had been looking for him all this time. Who would have thought the world was so small that they would meet again? Seeing me honestly admitting my mistake, Willow's expression finally improved a little. I immediately followed up and took advantage of the moment. I asked, "Since you're not mad anymore, can I get a kiss?" Willow glared at me and said, "Get lost," but the redness at the tips of her ears betrayed her. Such a beauty's angry pout. Still as tsundere as always, I stopped holding back, wrapped an arm around her, and kissed her on the lips. Willow pinched me in annoyance, but rose on her tiptoes to respond to the kiss. 15 minutes later, with a very good mood and slightly swollen lips, I returned to the classroom. Great. Looks like I can still eat for a while longer. Chapter 4. But unexpectedly, Willow still wanted to dump me. In the VIP lounge of the school, Willow sat with her long legs crossed, drinking a hot beverage. Sitting across from her were her two best girlfriends, the extremely beautiful school flower Freya, and the top-level succubus of the school who had seen countless men, Sophia. "I want to break up with George." Willow was the first to speak. Just as I was about to push the door open, I froze when I heard that. Sophia frowned and said, "Are you sure?" Willow let out a cold snort and said, "I've found Makoto, so of course I can't keep entangling myself with George. Besides, we were just playing around from the beginning." Sophia spoke lazily. "George is that kind of simp. It wasn't easy for him to finally win you over. How could he let go so easily?" Willow sighed and said, "That's why I want you two to help me. Go fish for George. Make him take the initiative to break up with me." Sophia was shocked. "What? You want us to seduce your boyfriend?" she said. "I don't want to. I look down on that kind of simp." Sophia's expression was full of disgust. Willow asked, "Then what about you, Freya?" Freya tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and said, "No interest." Willow let out a light laugh and said, "When it's done, that limited edition LV bag of mine will be yours. As for you, Freya, although I deleted hundreds of photos from my album, your ugly photos from middle school, I didn't delete a single one. After all, we're sisters. Keeping those ugly photos for you is my lifelong duty. You wouldn't want your crush to see them." After saying that, Willow looked completely confident. "Sure enough," Sophia said in delight. "Willow, you really know how to control people." "I agree. Forget George. If it were a dog, I could make it fall in love with me." Freya tightened the pen in her hand nervously. She said anxiously, "No, you're not allowed to show those to anyone." Willow smiled knowingly. She spoke casually, "Don't worry. He's lustful, easy to hook. One hook and he'll bite." Outside the door, upon hearing this, I clenched my fists, my arms trembling. There's actually such a good thing. I walked to a place with no people before daring to laugh out loud, although Willow was the best among the best. Sophia and Freya were no worse. Freya's face was beautiful like a celebrity, and the tear mole under her eye was absolutely stunning. As for Sophia, she could be called a top-level succubus. Her 30-60 fiery figure was full of wild charm. Let me be straightforward. Back then, when I approached Willow, it wasn't only for her face, it was also for these two. Being in the right place gives you first pick. I originally planned to deal with this one and then the other. I didn't expect them to plan to come together. Since that's the case, I can only accept all of them with tears of joy. After I returned, I happily waited for Sophia and Freya to come fish for me. My face carried a smile all day long. When I saw Willow, my smile became even brighter. "Thank you, goddess of mercy." Willow looked at me with disdain and said, "You're this happy just from seeing me?" I nodded vigorously and said, "Wife, I really love you so much." She rolled her eyes and said, "So useless." Chapter 5. Willow's lips curved slightly. She lowered her head and sent a message in the group chat. Maybe he's not that easy to fish after all. Chapter 6. At night, I tossed and turned, too excited to fall asleep. I kept guessing who would come fish for me first. Originally, I thought it would be Sophia. After all, her personality was bold and unrestrained. But unexpectedly, the next day at school, Freya stopped me in the hallway. Her expression was a little unnatural as she said, "Classmate George, do you want to study with me?" I was a bit surprised, so direct, not even trying to disguise it. I didn't expect Freya to be the straightforward type and also so pure. After she finished speaking, I didn't respond. I did it on purpose. I wanted to see what other tricks she had. Sure enough, because I didn't speak for a long time, Freya grew a little anxious. A moment later, she suddenly stiffened her lips into a forced sweet smile. Then, with her voice pinched into a soft, coquettish tone, she said, "Shall we study together?" "Okay, classmate George." Where did she learn this move? Hard fishing. Seeing that I remained unmoved, she panicked a little. I watched her flustered expression with great interest, her long lashes trembling lightly, her lower lip tightly pressed, her beautiful eyes misty, as if she might cry in the next second. Truly, a sight that makes my heart ache with pity. Only after I had appreciated enough did I mercifully let her off. I said, "Of course, being able to study with you is something I couldn't ask for more." Flattering words flowed out of my mouth naturally. Freya looked even more uncomfortable. She hurriedly said, "See you after school in the library." In a very good mood, I walked into the classroom and sat in my seat. Makoto had already arrived. When he saw me, his eyes curved as he handed me a bag of cookies and said, "George, I made these at home yesterday. I brought them for you." I politely expressed my thanks. Strangely, ever since Willow and Makoto reunited, Makoto hadn't shown much reaction. Even when Willow brought up the past to him, he only responded lightly. "Some things I don't really remember clearly, but it's nice to see you again." His attitude toward Willow was lukewarm. Toward me, however, he was quite enthusiastic. He always invited me to eat and play games together. I once said his computer setup was pretty good. He directly ordered another one and gave it to me. He said, "So when we play together, you won't drag me down." I once said his videos looked good. He smiled and asked, "Which one do you think looks the best?" I said the one where he cosplayed as the bunny girl maid. On the spot, he joked, "Want to see it? Then come to my place. I'll wear it for you." Good Lord, if I didn't know he had a normal sexual orientation, I would have suspected he was fishing for me. Gotta admit, his technique is impressive. Dangerous. My orientation almost shifted, but I forgot Willow was sitting in front of me. After seeing Makoto give me food, she immediately became displeased and snapped at me. "Are you trying to starve me to death?" I instantly pulled out a sandwich from my bag and said, "Baby, the egg is still 70% cooked. Ketchup filled to the top. No lettuce." Willow gave a small approving nod. Then I turned my head and handed another one to Makoto, saying, "Bro, this one's for you." Makoto accepted it, his eyes bending with a smile. Then he even glanced at Willow and tilted his head slightly at her. From the corner of my eye, I saw that Willow's face had already turned completely dark. I stiffened at once. Crap. If Willow misunderstands that I like men, and thinks I'm trying to steal Makoto, and then refuses to introduce me to her beautiful girlfriends, what would I do? That absolutely cannot happen. After surviving the whole day in the cracks between danger, I finally made it to the end of school. I headed straight to the library. Our school's library has independent rooms. Freya is the top student of the grade, so she has a room of her own. I hummed a tune as I pushed open the door. Freya, wearing a pleated short skirt, was sitting very properly at the desk. When she saw me, she looked a bit nervous, her hands and feet at a loss, completely pure and innocent. I whistled silently in my heart. When I walked over and sat beside her, I pretended to accidentally touch her thigh. I immediately felt her tremble lightly. I opened my book, then spoke with an annoyed tone. "I didn't really understand this part. Freya, can you lend me your notes to take a look?" Freya silently handed them over. I smiled at her, and when I took them, I accidentally grabbed her hand. She withdrew instantly like she had been shocked by electricity. Her cheeks flushed red in an instant. I had long heard that Freya was only interested in studying and had zero male presence around her. I didn't quite believe it before, but seeing her now, it really couldn't be truer. Letting a pure, abstinent Hailing Jihua wear a super short skirt to fish for people. What difference is there from forcing a good girl into prostitution? Willow, you really do all kinds of good deeds. For the rest of the time, Freya earnestly explained her notes to me, and I earnestly stared at her. She didn't dare look at me, her voice trembling. And each time she finished a section, she would stutter and ask whether I understood that part. I would nod with a thoughtful expression, thinking I got it. She continued, until finally, she lifted her eyes and carefully asked, "Did you understand?" Only then, under her gaze, did I firmly shake my head. I smiled and said, I'm sorry, Freya. With you sitting right next to me explaining the problems, I can't concentrate at all. I intentionally acted spoiled. Freya's cheeks turned rosy as she trembled and said, then I'll explain it again. Halfway through studying, I deliberately slacked off. I threw down my pen and slumped back in the chair. I said, I have no motivation. Freya. Freya paused her pen and asked dully, then how can you have motivation? I had been waiting for that question. I suddenly leaned close to her. I said, Freya, your legs are really white. Freya was startled, and after hearing my words, her face instantly flushed all the way to her ears. She gripped her pen tightly. In a soft voice, she said, don't. Too close. Her voice was so low it was almost inaudible. I asked, then you kiss me once. Another heavy blow. Freya snapped her head up. Her pen scratched a line across the notebook. She asked in surprise, what? I shrugged and said, you asked how I could have motivation. Right, if you kiss me once, I'll have motivation. I raised an eyebrow at her. After hearing my words, Freya's eyelashes trembled nonstop, her eyes dodging, her lips moved, but she couldn't say a single word. Her whole face was completely red. Suddenly, she closed her eyes as if making some huge decision. She said, okay, then, eyes closed. She leaned toward me. However, just as our lips were about to touch, I pushed her away forcefully. I said righteously, no, I was just joking. And you really kissed me. You know I have a girlfriend. Are you trying to be the mistress? Freya froze on the spot, completely at a loss, but I smiled and said, forget it. Just don't tell Willow about this. Let's make it our little secret. Only then did she react. She stood up, not daring to look at me at all. She stammered, it's getting late. Early, I'll go first. After saying that, she ran away so fast she even forgot to pack her books. Watching her panicked silhouette, I whistled in my heart again. Lowering my head, I added a note to her contact on WeChat. Very white, blushes after one kiss, before bed. I even sent her a few ambiguous stickers. I made sure she wouldn't sleep tonight. Chapter 7. After that day, maybe because I teased her too hard, Freya didn't dare contact me for several days. But I wasn't in a hurry because something even more fun appeared. Sophia, wearing a black bodysuit, her long legs crossed, the obsidian earring on her left ear shining dazzlingly under the sunlight, was waiting for me at the school gate. She said Willow asked me to send her home. I looked her up and down thoroughly, and finally sighed in my heart. Black bodysuits truly deserve to be called the hottest clothes on a woman. Sophia brushed her long hair to one side, showing me a charming smile. She said, then I'll trouble you. After speaking, she didn't wait for my reply and directly hopped onto the back seat, immediately wrapping her arms around my waist. All the way, I pretended to resist and tried to keep my distance, even attempting several times to push her arms away, but she ignored everything and held me tighter. Even pressing her face against my back, I could feel just how full her figure was. So, where she couldn't see, my smile curved wildly. When we arrived, her legs went weak and she fell into my arms. I quickly pushed her away and said seriously, Sophia, please respect yourself. But actually, when I pushed her away, I secretly groped her waist twice. The texture was excellent. I liked it very much. If dealing with Freya required bold initiative, then dealing with Sophia required pretending to be a deep, sincere, honest man. After all, a love expert who had seen countless men fears true feelings the most, and desires them the most. Sure enough, she frowned slightly, then adjusted her tone and said pitifully, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I sighed and said, the speed wasn't fast. Why were you so scared? Her eyes reddened, tears on the verge of falling, and she hiccuped softly as she said, it's all my fault. I'm just too useless. As the saying goes, a woman's single tear can act its way into breaking your heart. I wiped her tears while apologizing to her. Seeing me flustered, she finally put away her tears and smiled at me. She said, actually, I brought you dinner too. Saying that, she took out a lunchbox from her bag and handed it to me. Her gaze lingered softly on me as she said, I don't know if it suits your taste. But just as she thought I would definitely be moved, I instead said with great emotion, how could it not suit me, as long as it's something Willow made? I'm touched. This is the first time Willow has cared about me. More destructive than true sincerity is sincerity wrongly given to a scumbag girl. At my words, Sophia froze for a moment. She said she was going home and told me to leave quickly too, then ran off in a hurry. From that day on, she asked me to send her home every day, and prepared dinner for me daily. And every day, I showed her how much I liked Willow, even asking her for advice on how to make Willow happier, until finally, she couldn't help asking why I liked Willow so much. I took the opportunity to smile bashfully, and started making things up. I said my family wasn't well off, that I came from a single-parent household. In order to attend this school, my mom sold our cattle and sheep. Actually, I didn't lie completely, they were sold. I just didn't mention that my family had 2,000 cattle and sheep. I said that when I first arrived here, no one looked up to me. They all disliked me for being a rural person. One day I was very hungry but had no living expenses left. It was Willow who gave me her meal, so I didn't starve. When I said this, my expression was endlessly sincere, but Sophia's expression grew solemn, because she knew the real reason Willow gave me that meal was to humiliate me. Willow thought the food tasted awful, after taking a bite and saying even feeding a dog would be better. She gave it to me. A flash of guilt passed over Sophia's face. She never expected I would like Willow, because of that incident, that day. Under the condemnation of her conscience, she ran away again. Chapter 8. After that, I escalated even further. I intentionally pretended to have a hypoglycemic episode. She asked me what was wrong. I said Willow's birthday was coming up, and I needed to save money to buy her a gift, so I could only afford one meal a day. Sophia looked completely incredulous. She said, "Then all the money you used to chase her and buy her things came from this?" I nodded. I said, "I just wanted to make her happy." After I said that, guilt and sympathy surfaced on Sophia's face. Her expression turned extremely unpleasant, but I acted like I didn't see it and kept asking her whether Willow would like this. I stared at the pricey bracelet on the screen. Sophia couldn't hold it in anymore. She snatched my phone away and snapped, "She doesn't need stuff like this from you. She won't even care. Keep your money for yourself and buy food. You're practically starving." Seeing how worried she looked, I knew I had succeeded. Sophia had started to feel sorry for me. What was that saying again? Right, when a woman starts feeling sorry for a man, he's doomed for life. So how could I not let her properly fall into that doom? I grabbed my phone back and, for the first time, lashed out at her. "Even if you're Willow's friend, you can't talk about her like that. Willow is different." After that, I turned around and walked away. Sophia stood frozen there for a full hour before she finally left. The next day, she started bringing me breakfast. I firmly rejected it. It was time to put her on ice for a while, let her feel anxious and restless, and it was also time to coax Willow. Chapter 9. During PE class, I couldn't wait. I pushed Willow into the equipment room, hooking her arms around my neck. She scolded me for being so impatient. I didn't bother talking. I grabbed the back of her neck and kissed her directly. When the kiss grew heated, Willow's eyes turned slightly red. Just as I was savoring this rare sight, I noticed Freya through the crack in the door. I had come in too quickly earlier, so the door wasn't fully closed. I didn't expect such a pleasant surprise. Thinking of that, I felt a surge of excitement, so I deepened the kiss even more aggressively. The next second, Willow pushed me away, looking overwhelmed. Tilting her head back with a soft, pleading voice, she said, "George, you're too intense. I can't breathe." I knew that right now. With her teary eyes and flushed cheeks, Willow looked irresistibly enticing. Not only was it driving me crazy, this was also the kind of sight that could completely shake a pure, innocent girl, especially since people have associative memories. Freya, at this moment, would definitely be reminded of that accidental kiss from before. Memory comes with touch and scent, so of course, I had to help her relive it a little. Seeing Willow beg, my gaze darkened. I pulled her back into my arms and cupped her face, kissing her urgently again. I laughed and said, "Silly girl, after kissing so many times, you still don't know how to breathe. I'll teach you." Willow's little gasp was swallowed by the overwhelming kiss. At the same time, I intentionally looked toward the door. The moment I lifted my eyes, Freya panicked and ran away. I laughed inwardly, and then continued taking over the territory without restraint. After leaving the nurse's office, I sent Freya a message. I told her to meet me in the library after school. I had something to say. I knew her heart must be in complete chaos right now, which made it the perfect time to conquer her. Freya didn't reply for a long while. I watched the upper left corner of the chat window show typing over and over, and couldn't help curling my lips. "Freya, your heart is shaken." After a long time, she finally replied with one word, "Okay." Satisfied, I put my phone away. Chapter 10. In the lounge, Willow was in a great mood. She asked, "It's already been half a month, how's the progress?" Freya glanced at Willow's slightly swollen, glossy lips and slowly lowered her head. She unconsciously tightened her grip on her sleeves. Her mind was filled with the scene from moments ago. George holding Willow by the back of her neck and kissing her forcefully, while Willow's eyes turned red at the corners, softly acting spoiled toward him. A sudden itch bloomed in Freya's heart. She couldn't control herself from recalling that kiss from before. Even though it had been brief, she really wanted to try it again, just once. When she realized what she was thinking, she shook her head violently. Willow looked at her in confusion. Freya forced herself to sound calm as she said, I've made no progress. Ask her instead. Sophia had been sitting there all afternoon with a dark expression, silent. Hearing Freya's words, she let out a heavy, annoyed snort. She didn't know why, but seeing Willow irritated her. Her mind replayed the affectionate look George had whenever he mentioned Willow. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She spoke with a bitter, sarcastic tone. He's practically obsessed with you. How are we supposed to get a chance? Hearing that, the corners of Willow's lips lifted slightly. She blinked and said, It's not like I want this. I guess my charm is just too much. You two can try harder. My birthday is next month, and I want to confess to Makoto before that. You need to get George handled. If everything works out, I'll treat you both to a big feast. Okay. Upon hearing that, Sophia was the first to stand up abruptly. She bit her lower lip and said, Got it. Then she slammed the door and left. Willow blinked. Surprised. She asked, confused, What's she mad about? Freya stood up without saying a word. She turned and left as well, leaving Willow completely baffled. She thought, do they really hate George that much? Sure, George was a total simp for her, but it wasn't that annoying, right? Forget it, maybe she had wronged them. It was George's fault for liking her too much. Since that was the case, she might as well be generous and help them out. Thinking of that, she sent George a message. My parents won't be home this weekend. Come to my place. Chapter 11. Seeing Willow's message, I replied with, okay. Then I pushed open the door to the study room in the library. Freya sat properly at the desk, still wearing her white short-sleeve shirt and pleated skirt, but her eyes were different. From the moment I walked in, her gaze clung to me like a shadow. When I reached her, her body began trembling slightly. I smiled and said, Didn't expect you to actually come. Great, I'm saved. The next second, I took out a set of math practice tests and said, Don't just sit there stunned. Isn't there a quiz coming up? Let's hurry and study. Standing in front of her, I lowered my head to look at her, the exact same angle as when I kissed Willow in the equipment room. Freya pressed her lips together, her voice tightening. You asked me to come, just to study. I nodded. A flash of disappointment crossed her eyes, like something inside her had suddenly dropped. She let out a very soft sigh but still obediently lowered her head and started working on the problems. Meanwhile, I occasionally leaned close to her. When passing her the papers, I deliberately brushed her hand. At first, she recoiled like she had been shocked, but later, she lightly brushed back. I pretended not to notice until she, clearly unsettled, asked me how to solve a question. I stood up and braced one hand against the desk, half caging her within my arms as I explained. While talking, I kept inching closer. When I was close enough to smell her hair, my voice suddenly stopped. Word by word, I asked, Today, in the nurse's office, you saw everything, didn't you? She froze, her pupils tightening. What are you talking about? I said bluntly, You really like peeking, don't you? Her expression fell apart in panic. She began pleading, I didn't mean to. Please don't tell Willow. Okay. Hearing that, I nodded and said, Just like last time, another secret between us. You're such a great best friend to Willow. Then I added, But tell me, why should I keep a secret for a toxic bestie like you? She lifted her head, staring straight at me. In a low voice, she asked, Then what will it take for you to keep the secret? And then, she leaned toward me on her own. Her fingertip tapped lightly against her lips. Her voice trembled so softly it could break, yet it carried irresistible temptation as she said, Just don't tell Willow, and I'll do anything you want. On the surface I looked resistant, but inside I was overjoyed. So this was what lay beneath Freya's innocent facade. After all, her trying to seduce me wasn't even a real secret, yet she seemed to truly enjoy immersing herself in this role of having a forbidden secret no one else should know. Well, what could I do? We're all adults. What could I possibly do? She seduced me. I didn't even want this, right? That night, with my lips swollen and red, I went home completely satisfied. Chapter 12. The next day, when I brought food to Willow, I deliberately wore a mask. Willow asked me what was wrong. I said I had caught a cold. She frowned. That's strange. Freya also caught a cold today. Stay away from me. I don't want to get sick. Willow stepped back in disgust. I nodded obediently, but behind the mask, the corners of my mouth lifted. Back at my seat, Makoto handed me a few packets of cold medicine. He said, George, take care of yourself. He even went to get hot water for me, successfully making Willow's face turn dark again. But I didn't coax her this time. I already had her in the palm of my hand. Why bother coaxing? Besides, when Sophia heard I was sick, she waited at the gate after school. She wanted to take me to the hospital. She was worried that I wouldn't get treated because I was saving money to spend on Willow. So she insisted on going with me to get medicine. I said, No need, I've already taken some. I waved my hand to refuse. But Sophia stubbornly grabbed my sleeve and wouldn't let go. She insisted I must go to the hospital, but if I really went, the truth would come out, so I refused with all my might, even threatening that if she didn't let go, I would stop walking her home from now on. Sophia pouted but had no choice except to listen. Still, she asked me to go home first while she headed back on her own. When we reached my building, I didn't let her leave. Instead, I told her to come upstairs with me. Hearing that, Sophia's eyes lit up, but once she saw the room, her expression changed again. When I first rented this place, the landlord totally scammed me. It was tiny and run down. I had always been too lazy to find a new place. So Sophia misunderstood again. She said, "You actually live here?" I said, "It's fine. Only costs $500 a month." It was actually $3,000. Thinking about it made me curse the landlord in my heart. Sophia didn't say anything. Then, puffing up angrily, she said, "You're sick. You can't stay in a place like this. I'll book you a hotel." The moment I heard that, I rejected it immediately. A hotel? No way. To win over a rich girl like Sophia, you have to create memorable moments. The more pitiful, the better. So I collapsed dramatically onto the bed and pretended to faint. Sophia poured water and brought it to my lips. I pulled down my mask slightly and drank a few sips. She noticed my lips and asked suspiciously why they were so red and swollen. Without blinking, without changing expression, I lied and said it was because of the cold and internal heat. Sophia believed it completely, her eyes filled with even more worry. I pretended to lie down to sleep. When she was about to leave, I grabbed her. I said, "Mom, stay with me, okay?" At that moment, I almost burst into laughter. I could feel Sophia freeze, but the next second, she softly hummed in response, lifted the blanket, and carefully lay down beside me. I naturally pulled her into my arms and let my hands wander over her. With my eyes closed, I couldn't help marveling inwardly. Eating this well, am I going to get smitten by karma someday? I heard Sophia's breathing turn rapid, but she didn't dare move. She could only stay tightly held against me, luring decent women into a life of vice, and persuading women of the night to turn over a new leaf, turning the pure-hearted into perverts, turning the perverted into the pure-hearted. George, well done. I praised myself in my heart. Chapter 13. The next morning, I apologized to Sophia with a look of deep remorse. I begged her not to tell Willow. Even though nothing had actually happened, even though I had mistaken her for someone else, Willow would still get angry if she found out. Sophia bit her lip and nodded, her face extremely unpleasant. And starting from that day, I began my wonderful routine. Willow in the morning, Freya at noon, Sophia at night. Freya learned quickly, she could already kiss me with ease, matching my pace effortlessly. Sophia, on the other hand, grew increasingly gentle with me. She took charge of all 3 of my meals, and even gave me financial support from time to time. On WeChat, I chatted with one girl after another. Eventually, both of them couldn't hold back and confessed to me, and I gave both the exact same reply. "That won't do. You two are Willow's best friends. What we're already doing is betraying her." Hearing that, Freya would kiss me over and over, using the excuse to ask again and again whether I loved her or loved Willow. I acted terribly conflicted. Sophia, meanwhile, kept bad-mouthing Willow, saying she was more suitable to be my girlfriend. That Willow was just a toxic girl who didn't deserve me. I knew then. Both of them were completely in love with me. So how could I not leverage this for my own benefit? I intentionally mentioned in front of Freya that a certain seductive streamer's revealing outfit looked amazing. The next day, she showed up in a lace-trimmed maid outfit, blushing as she said, "Don't look at anyone else, only look at me." That day, Freya's lipstick ended up completely smudged. She even allowed me to take photos of her. It was amusing. She had originally tried to bait me just to get me to delete a picture, but now she willingly let me take as many photos as I wanted. Later, I casually mentioned to Sophia that I really wanted to see Willow wearing an apron while cooking for me. That night, she went completely braless under an apron and cooked 4 dishes and a soup in my kitchen. She pressed my hand to her chest and said in a seductive voice, "Willow doesn't have a figure like this. Dump her, then you can do whatever you want with me." Then of course I had myself a satisfying touch. As for breaking up, that was impossible. At least not right now. I still wanted to see what other surprises Willow had prepared for me. Soon, the weekend arrived. Fully prepared, I headed to Willow's villa, but when I knocked, it was the butler who opened the door. There was no sign of Willow. At that moment, I received a message from Makoto. He wrote, "Bro, come to the 2nd floor. I have something to tell you." I was a little surprised. Willow invited Makoto today as well. Filled with confusion, I went upstairs. The moment I saw Makoto, I opened my mouth to speak, but he raised his hand, signaling me to stay silent, and gestured for me to come closer. I tiptoed toward him. His expression was serious as he motioned for me to look through the crack in the door. I didn't understand, until the voices inside drifted out. It was Willow. She said, "What is wrong with you two? Why hasn't he taken the bait yet? Forget it. I'll have to help you again, she continued. George can't handle alcohol. Later, drink more with him, get him drunk, and set things up. I want to spend some alone time with Makoto. Then she said, Makoto is unbelievable. If he hadn't heard George would be here, he wouldn't even have come tonight. After Willow finished, Sophia let out a cold snort. Freya rolled her eyes and said coolly, got it. Hearing that, everything clicked for me. Makoto thought I was Willow's simp, obliviously being played by her, so he brought me here to expose the truth about this manipulative girl. Right now, he was filled with righteous fury, as if he wanted to kill Willow with his glare alone. Gritting his teeth, he whispered, toxic girl. Then he patted my shoulder firmly. He said, George, don't lose your dignity. Pull yourself together. I'm definitely helping you with this. Seeing his united front expression, I was moved to the point my eyes nearly teared up. No wonder he was the Prince Charming, he really was loyal. With righteous anger, he growled. Today, I'll get justice for you. I said, what? Wait. However, in the next second, Makoto kicked the door open with a bang. He started cursing, Willow, fuck, DDDDD. Chapter 14, there I was, staring back at the three people inside the room, eight eyes meeting mine. Wait. I wasn't prepared for this. My mind raced, trying to think of a plan. Makoto dragged me forward, right in front of them. Freya and Sophia both had panic written all over their faces. Only Willow panicked for a second before regaining her composure. She lifted her chin defiantly. I still hadn't figured out what to do. When Makoto acted first, a crisp slap rang out. All three girls raised their hands to their faces at the same time. I couldn't help admiring him. Damn, he actually slapped all three in one go. I wasn't even finished admiring him when Makoto turned around and slapped Willow a second time. He yelled, furious, we heard everything just now. You really are AF *****ing disgrace. Lying to George, teaming up with your best friends to set him up, aren't you just bullying an honest guy? Your chest isn't even as big as mine, and you think you can date me? Who the hell do you think you are? Makoto's barrage of insults was so perfect I nearly applauded. Bro, when did you become this good at scolding people? Willow stared at him in disbelief. Covering her face, she stammered, You changed. You weren't like this before. You always helped me, saved me, protected me. Makoto looked at her with utter disgust. Save you? That was because my values weren't twisted yet. Even if it were a stray dog, I'd still try to help it. But a toxic girl like you, the kind no one wants, why would I ever want you? Then he turned to me and said, George, I'm always on your side. Finally, my cue. I pinched my thigh hard, and instantly my eyes reddened, tears falling. My hands trembled as I pointed at them one by one. Through clenched teeth, I said, You, all of you. Freya and Sophia wore faces full of guilt and grievance. George, listen to me, let me explain. George, it's not what you think. Willow didn't even dare to look at me. I continued the performance wholeheartedly. I said with deep heartbreak, I loved you so much, and you betrayed me like this. I thought your best friends had finally accepted me. I tried so hard to impress them, to get along with them. Willow, what do you take me for? In your eyes, am I just a clown? The more I spoke, the more emotional I became, until I finally erupted. From today on, we're done. We will never see each other again, not for the rest of our lives. Then I stormed out, slamming the door. Makoto shot them a murderous glare before following me out. Freya and Sophia rushed after us. They kept calling my name behind me. I pretended not to hear, running all the way until I reached an empty place. Then, expression completely blank, I wiped away the tears. Faking deep affection is really exhausting on the eyes. Chapter 15. After that night, Freya and Sophia's guilt toward me reached its peak. They kept sending message after message, apologizing, begging for my forgiveness. Freya said she knew she was wrong. She admitted her intentions weren't pure at the beginning. But later, she truly fell for me. She said she had never dated anyone before. That I was her first. She begged me to give her another chance. When she said this, she was kneeling in front of me, her face full of grievance. I lifted a basin of water and poured it over her head. In an instant, her clothes were soaked, revealing her tight and tempting curves. But she didn't resist at all. Water slid down her face, down her body, yet she only looked up at me with unwavering devotion. I was thrilled inside, a beauty soaked to the skin. But on the surface, I was full of fury. I said, Impossible. Absolutely impossible. It was you. You shamelessly seduced me, lured me into making mistakes. You made me suffer endlessly in guilt. She panicked and grabbed my clothes. I know. It's my fault. Everything is my fault. A breeze blew past, making her shiver. Her lashes trembled. Her lips flushed. A beautiful sight. After admiring it long enough, I pried her hands off and turned to leave, leaving her in utter despair. Sophia was no different. She even brought a belt. Right in front of me, she slowly slid off her coat, then knelt down. She said, "As long as you forgive me, you can do anything you want to me." I held the belt and lifted her chin with it. She obediently raised her head. The girl who was usually proud and dismissive now looked completely meek. Choking up, she said, "As long as you like it." I had never looked at her figure from such a close distance before. She was impressively built. I suddenly threw the belt to the ground. I said, "A belt is for disciplining dogs. I don't use it on people." Sophia panicked, so she started hitting herself with it. Red marks spread across her back. The pain forced little cries out of her. I pretended to look heartbroken. But inside, I was exhilarated. More, just a little more. When she was covered in marks, I finally shouted, "Enough. Don't appear in front of me again." And with that, I left without looking back. As for Willow, she didn't come to apologize, but she constantly had people checking on my condition. Every time, I acted like I couldn't eat or sleep, devastated by heartbreak. I even looked at her photos with a face full of longing. If I didn't drag her guilt to the absolute limit, how was I supposed to deal with her? Sure enough, when she heard that Makoto and I were drinking ourselves sick at a bar, Willow finally couldn't take it anymore. Chapter 16. I pretended to be completely drunk and slumped over the table. Willow said, "I'm here to pick up George." Makoto cursed angrily. "What the hell are you? Get lost, you cheating manipulative slut." It was obvious that Willow hadn't been doing well these days. She looked much more haggard, and her eyes were red. It was even affecting her beauty. Willow let out a cold snort and said, "What does it have to do with you? I'm only letting it go because you saved me once, so I won't bother arguing about what happened before. But I'm George's girlfriend. This is between us." Her words were sharp. I clicked my tongue inwardly, still as disobedient as ever. I pretended to be irritated by her and, with burning anger, slapped her across the face. Willow was stunned by the hit. The next second, I grabbed her collar and unleashed a flurry of blows. I said, "Do you know how much I love you? How could you treat me like this?" "Willow, I feel like I'm suffocating." After hearing my words, Willow's expression shifted from anger to guilt. Eyes lowered. She said, "George, I raised my hand to cut her off and said, "Get out. Don't fucking bother me." Seeing the guilt on her face, I knew I had achieved my goal. Sure enough, the next day, Willow knelt in front of me. She still wasn't used to being the one in the lower position. Her posture was perfectly proper, but her tone was as arrogantly proud as always. She said, "I already know I was wrong. I just didn't expect that you loved me so much that I hurt your feelings. I apologize. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Can we go back to how we were before?" To show my sincerity, she opened her coat, revealing her body wrapped in ropes. The tips of her ears were red enough to drip blood. I didn't speak. I only lifted her chin, feeling humiliated. Willow was about to lose her temper, but when she saw my frown, she froze. I leaned down slightly, my voice low. "Willow, I think you've misunderstood something. You're the one begging me now. I used to love that pretty face of yours the most, so I tolerated your bad temper. But after you let those girls flirt with me, I realized Freya and Sophia are both sweeter than you. And most importantly, just like you, they have beautiful faces. So Willow, where exactly is your advantage?" Hearing this, Willow couldn't keep pretending anymore. She wrapped her arms around my neck and leaned in. She said, I can change everything. Ever since we broke up these couple of weeks, I've been miserable. Please don't abandon me." Willow looked desperate. She said, "After you left that day, I realized I was wrong. I never actually liked Makoto. I just mixed up gratitude with affection. The one I like is you. It's always been you. Please have mercy on me. Forgive me." "Okay." Willow began kissing me. Her eyes filled with pleading. Seeing her like this, a part of me felt satisfied, but another part felt bored. She was far too easy to win back. With that thought, I shoved her to the ground. I stood up and delivered my cold verdict. "I won't pity you, and I sure as hell won't forgive you." Willow collapsed onto the floor in pain. Chapter 17. Starting from that day, the three women began circling around me all day long. They competed to bring me water and meals. They even sent me seductive photos from time to time. While I enjoyed the visual feast, I also verbally humiliated them, yet they relished it. Honestly, I should thank Willow. She opened my eyes completely. She made me realize that manipulative girls like them should be treated exactly this way. Watching them panic every day, scrambling for ways to please me, was simply exhilarating. Until my birthday. With flawless makeup, the three of them ran into each other in my house. Seeing Freya's black lace cutout lingerie and Sophia's transparent apron, Willow practically jumped in anger. She protested. "What are you two doing here? I never told you to keep trying to seduce him. And what the hell are you wearing? What decent woman dresses like that?" Then she suddenly processed what was happening. She frowned and said, You two are trying to steal my boyfriend. Sophia rolled her eyes and said, Steal? You're the one who told us to bait him in the first place. You're really terrible at this, yet you love playing the game. Freya let out a small derisive hum and said, If you hadn't exposed yourself, George would have fallen for me already. Her gaze toward Willow was icy. Willow was shaking with anger as she said, You're my best friends, and you still stab me in the back like this. Get away from him. Stop seducing George. Freya said, You shut up first. George clearly likes me the most. Sophia looked at me with soft, watery eyes and said, Has he ever opened up his heart to you, told you about his family? Did he ever call you mommy? Only I truly stepped into his lonely heart. Freya snapped back. Lies. He told me I'm gentler than both of you. He should like me the most. Panicking, Freya pulled out her phone to prove it. Sophia immediately took out her own phone as well. You're the one lying. I have screenshots too. As they spoke, they suddenly realized something. All three turned to look at me. Willow was the first to break. Hands on her hips, she said, George, didn't you say you only liked me? What is all this? Freya and Sophia also stared at me, full of hurt. In the end, Willow, face dark with fury, dragged me into the bedroom. She took a deep breath. She placed both phones in front of me. Then she screamed hysterically. Over 800 pages of messages in a month. Are you an octopus? Do you dare read out loud the things you sent them? I said you were easy to hook, but not this easy to hook. You bite at any hook you see. The other two women rushed in as soon as they heard the shouting. Sophia frowned and immediately said, I won't allow you to talk to George like that. Willow looked back at her in disbelief. Freya added, George must have his own reasons for doing what he did. Willow let out a disbelieving laugh. She said, He's been playing us. He's been stringing all three of us along. Are you two insane? The more Willow spoke, the more agitated she became. She snatched my phone and unlocked it by holding it up to my face. I tried to stop her, but it was too late. All I could do was watch her open my messages. She said angrily, Let's see how many side girls you've been keeping. But after just 2 swipes, she began trembling with rage. She said, You saved my contact name as sharp-tongued but soft. George. Willow's voice went shrill as she continued. Freya is pale and blushes with one kiss. And Sophia is tanned skin, big chest, feels great to touch. I slowly closed my eyes. Willow was losing her mind. She screamed. And you two can still forgive him after this? Freya and Sophia remained silent. Willow held the phone up in front of my face. She said, George, talk. Well, since I was exposed, I might as well stop pretending. I smiled indifferently. I said, So it's fine for you three to deceive me, but I'm not allowed to fight back. Besides, all I did was make the same mistake every man in the world would make. It's just human nature. If you can't handle it, you can leave. All three women fell silent when they heard that, until Sophia suddenly knelt and wrapped her arms around my leg, saying, I'm not leaving. I know he was just too hurt. It's not wrong for him to retaliate. I love you. I won't leave you. Freya followed immediately, grabbing my other leg. You've kissed me, touched me, I gave you everything. I'm a traditional woman. You have to take responsibility. I'm not leaving. I like you. Seeing the two of them like this, Willow immediately became displeased. Stop trying to seduce my boyfriend. I'm not leaving. George is mine. It's all your fault. You two shameless flirts kept tempting him. That's why he did something wrong. Get lost, both of you. Willow pushed them aside and knelt in the middle. The three of them knelt on the ground, looking up at me with anxious eyes. Honey, who are you choosing? They waited nervously for my decision, but I only laughed. Choose? There was nothing to choose. Thanks to Willow, I finally realized there were far more possibilities than I'd ever imagined. I used to be too naive. Now that I knew there was an entire forest in front of me, why would I hang myself on just 3 trees? I pulled my hand back, stood up, and straightened my clothes. Then I tossed out a light, effortless sentence. Let's see how you all perform. After saying that, I left without the slightest hesitation. Recently, I added a new pretty girl on WeChat. We had arranged to have dinner today, and she was going to tell me about her family background. As someone as honest and kind-hearted as I am, how could I possibly let her cry alone with no one to comfort her? With that thought, I didn't look back even once. Behind me came anxious shouts. Whoever it was, it simply didn't matter anymore.